Hello and welcome. I'm Suma Katauka and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. Iran's foreign minister says U.S. nuclear talks mediated by Oman are off to a good start and will continue. Tehran insists it will discuss only its nuclear program and calls for talks without threats or pressure. According to Syrian state media reports, Saudi economic delegation led by Investment Minister Khalid al-Falih arrived in Damascus to sign strategic agreements with Syria aimed at supporting the Syrian economy and launching a new phase of bilateral partnership. Italian police have said that they suspect deliberate arson after a fire damaged rail infrastructure near Bologna, causing train delays of up to 2 hours at one of Italy's busiest hubs in the first full day of the Winter Olympic Games. Now, the Italian anti-terror police have started investigations. However, no claim of responsibility has been made so far. France's national financial prosecutor has opened an investigation into former culture minister Jacques Lang and his daughter Caroline Lang over suspected aggravated tax fraud laundering, following the release of U.S. Justice Department files linking Lang to late financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. While Lang denies any wrongdoing, he says he will fully cooperate with investigators. The US and India release an interim trade framework aimed at lowering tariffs and deepening economic ties. Both sides say more negotiations are needed to finalize a broader trade agreement. A US appeals court upholds Trump's policy of mandatory detention for migrants without bond. The 2-1 ruling marks the first appellate backing despite widespread lower court opposition. Thousands have gathered in Bani Walid yesterday for the funeral of Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, the son of former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, who was shot dead by unidentified gunmen on Tuesday, a turnout that highlighted Libya's deep political divisions that still remain after more than a decade of the 2011 uprising. U.S. Navy Secretary John Phelan was listed as a passenger on Jeffrey Epstein's private plane in 2006. Phelan declined to comment through a Navy spokesperson. Now for this hour, we start with Europe. Hungary has made its position clear. Prime Minister Viktor Orban says Budapest will not participate in any deployment of European troops to Ukraine, warning that such a move would mean direct military conflict with Russia. Writing on social media ahead of an anti-war rally in the western city of Szombathely, Orban said, "The risks are escalating today." He argued the danger is in sending Hungarian money to Ukraine. Tomorrow, he warned it could mean young Hungarians being sent to fight in a war. Orban has stressed that the presence of European troops on Ukrainian soil would cross a red line, turning the conflict into a direct confrontation between Europe and Russia. His message was unambiguous: Hungary will not take part. Orban has declared, adding that the country refuses to be drawn into the war. The statement comes as Orban prepares to address supporters of his ruling Fidesz party at what the government describes as an anti-war rally. Such events have become a regular feature ahead of key political moments, with parliamentary elections scheduled for April 12th. Orban's stance on Ukraine and Russia is likely to be a central campaign issue. While many European countries push for stronger military support for Kyiv, Hungary continues to position itself as a holdout, calling for restraint, warning of escalation, and insisting it will not send troops into the war. Now for this, we welcome Mr. Raymond Vickery. He's an international affairs expert and former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce, joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, Mr. Vickery, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, looking at this, Viktor Orban has cited concerns about European involvement. Would it actually mean direct involvement against Russia if Europe or any other country sends troops to Ukraine?
Well, thanks for having me and allowing me to comment on this. You know, in order to wage peace, just like you wage war, you've got to have a strategy, you got to have partners, and you have to have principles upon which to act. Unfortunately, under the leadership of President of ours, we do not have that. President Trump has not put together either a coherent strategy or partners, and we certainly don't have principles upon which to be involved in the settlement of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. In that instance, Europe, particularly European Union, along with the United Kingdom, and other European countries have tried to step into the breach to have a coherent strategy along with partners to be able to resolve the conflict by bringing pressure on Russia. Viktor Orban from Hungary, on the other hand, has been a holdout. And if you listen to the conference speech that he gave, which was really to kick off a political campaign, he considers the EU as much an adversary of Hungary as he does Russia. Basically, he sees Russia as the ultimate winner, and that he cannot afford to risk the involvement of Hungary as a part of a coalition of the willing to be able to bring pressure, both military and otherwise, on Russia. I think that he overstates the situation in regard to European willingness to put troops on the ground in Ukraine. That has been something which has not been decided at all beyond the bringing of military pressure on Russia to try to get them to back off from their invasion and their war against Ukraine. So Viktor Orban is creating, if you will, this straw man that Europe is anxious to bring about military confrontation with Russia, and that will lead to war, both regionally and world war as a risk. He puts it like standing on a rope and trying to balance. So this is a very difficult proposition that Viktor Orban has created with Europe. If the United States is not providing the comprehensive leadership with strategy, partners, and principles to resolve this conflict, and Europe is unable to do that because of the veto power from Hungary and Viktor Orban and the EU, then further difficulties are presented. So whether or not Putin is willing to go to war with EU in any particular circumstances is not predictable at this point. But what is for sure is that Putin and Russia are not going to back off from trying to bring Ukraine into the old Russian Empire as it was for long periods of time, and it's not going to back off from trying to having influence in the Balkans and areas which were a part of Russian influence, if not the empire, dating back into the 19th and early 20th century. So Viktor Orban and Hungary are a major sticking point in regard to being able to bring the kind of pressure strategically and militarily as well as economically on Russia to get them to get Russia and Putin to back off from its invasion. I think that without such pressure, the chances of resolution of the Ukraine Russian war at this point are very small. So this is a grave difficulty. And the workaround will have to be a coalition of the willing of those countries in Europe and other countries such as Canada, with the pressure being brought by other great democracies like India and in Japan to be able to resolve this along with a principled approach to the conflict. Unfortunately, that does not exist as we speak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vikri, for sharing that. Please stay with us as we come back to you. Now we have a breaking news from Pakistan. Pakistan's military has said that it has arrested 4 facilitators linked to the deadly Islamabad mosque bombing of yesterday that claimed at least 32 lives and left over 170 people severely injured. Authorities also claim to have apprehended the Afghan ISIS mastermind behind the attack. Now we go back to Europe. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has confirmed he will attend the inaugural meeting of US President Donald Trump's Board of Peace in Washington in 2 weeks. Orban has made the announcement stating that the meeting will focus on peace initiatives including Gaza. However, the board's charter suggests it could expand beyond Gaza and rival the United Nations role. The board has been criticized for requiring $1 billion payments from permanent members, sparking claims it could become a pay-to-play version of the UN Security Council. Orban, who is a close ally of President Trump, attended the board's launch in Davos last month. Now we welcome back Mr. Raymond Vickery. He's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, Mr. Vickery, for staying with us. Now, looking at this, how do you analyze the current status or the effectiveness of any mediation efforts by UN? And do you think that this should be a wake-up call, as a lot of leaders, including Hungary's Prime Minister, saying that they will be attending this Board of Peace inaugural meeting?
Well, thanks again for letting me comment on this. The Board of Peace, if you read what was put out from the White House, is really nothing more than a vehicle for President Trump to become, if you will, a quasi-sovereign in regard to world peace matters. It posits President Trump as the chairman. There is no mechanism for either removal or succession, even after he would cease to be president of the United States. So it's a very top-down organization based upon what President Trump has been familiar with as a real estate developer. It's a corporate organization in which power flows down from the chairman into the membership of the organization. It is obviously designed to replace the United Nations and indeed multilateral organizations across the board, with perhaps some exception for NATO, and others. But even that's not clear because President Trump has attacked NATO. Now, the argument that Viktor Orban and Trump make is that the United Nations has not kept the peace in regard to Ukraine and Russia, and it's been a failure, and therefore you have to have some other organization which will step in and be able to bring peace to the difficult areas in the world, not only Ukraine, but Gaza, and indeed the way in which it's set up, the power of the so-called Board of Peace would be worldwide. So Viktor Orban is saying yes, he's willing to go along with President Trump, and that this will be the new order of world institutions, and you will be able to disregard United Nations, WTO, the multilateral organizations in favor of this Board of Peace. It's a very short-sighted approach. There are no principles stated for the action of the Board of Peace, like there are for the United Nations in regard to its charter, which sets forth very plainly principles of anti-imperialism, non-aggression, non-control of other nations. That is not present at all in the charter for the so-called Board of Peace. So Viktor Orban is throwing in his lot with President Trump and his approach to international affairs. But in my view, it is absolutely necessary that the world get back to the principles upon which the United Nations was founded. Now, it is true that the United Nations hasn't been effective in many instances, but that lack of effectiveness has been sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy when nations, particularly Russia and China, have been unwilling to compromise and go forward. And indeed, the United States is rapidly undermining the United Nations. So the United Nations and its principles have largely been a forum for peace and prosperity, ineffective in some areas, but the way forward is reform, as India has advocated and others have indicated, rather than throwing the baby out with the bath, if you will, and turning this over to Chairman Donald Trump and his acolytes, including Viktor Orban.
With that, I would like to thank Mr. Vikri for sharing that insight with us on NewsX World. Now we move the focus on to Bangladesh. Ramesh Chandra Sen, a veteran Hindu leader and former minister in Bangladesh, has died after falling ill in custody. The death of the five-time member of parliament has raised serious questions about the treatment of senior leaders in custody. Sen was arrested after the fall of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's regime in August of 2024 and was charged with multiple counts, including murder. Despite his elderly age and health issues, he was reportedly denied adequate medical care. His death follows several similar cases of political figures dying after falling ill in custody. The controversy has sparked outrage among Bangladeshis who are now calling his death a custodial killing. The death comes amid allegations of human rights violations and a crackdown on political opponents under the current Yunus regime. Now we welcome retired Major General A.K. Sivaji. He's a geostrategic expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you for joining us, Major General Sivaji, and good to have you. Now, looking at this, what do we know so far about him and what legacy does he leave behind? And also, what safeguards were, if we know, in any that were placed to ensure that the care for Mr. Sen while in custody was present?
Kriti, what is happening is there is no law and order which is prevailing as on today in Bangladesh. And especially all those who were involved with Awami League, they were all put behind the bars. A number of charges were put against him. Ramesh Chandra was a water resource minister in Sheikh Hasina government. He is a Awami League minister. But after Sheikh Hasina has ousted and she managed to flee to India, he was taken in the prison on 17th August 2024 and he was tried for three charges including murder. And it is nothing else but a custodial death. He was an old person, he would need a medical care, but he was interrogated, a lot of pressure was put on him, his family was not allowed to meet him, and ultimately he died. Now the point which come is this reflects the situation which is prevailing in Bangladesh. Mohammed Yunus has given complete loose rope to anti-Hindu sentiments as well as anti-minority sentiment. There are people who are running amok. The people who have killed number of minority personnel, including Hindus. Jamaat-e Islami, Bangladesh Mujahideen are ruling the roost. They are radical Islamic fundamentalists, and the ISI has already increased its footprints. And there is a chance of Rohingyas, which are about 10 lakh, which are in Cox's Bazar, they are being radicalized by ISI and trying to be pushing to the India. Now the thing is that as on today, there is a chaos and confusion, there is a total disorder, and now the election is to take place another 3 4 days, and everyone is claiming that elections are not going to be fair and free because they are not inclusive in any case, because Awami League, which has the maximum broad base of about 25 to 30% of a population, is being banned and not allowed to fight election. So what sort of election will are we talking about? They are not going to be inclusive, and obviously it is not going to be fair and free because there is a lot of pressure which is coming from Mohammed Yunus government to help out, especially Jamaat-e Islami at the cost of BNP. Bangladesh Nationalist Party, which was of Khalida Jia, now his son is the chairman Tariq Rahman. But all in all, to me it looks like that this election which is going to take place in another 3 4 days is a farce. As on today, the way situations are fanning out in Bangladesh, it is going toward total chaos and confusion. There can be a civil war type of situation prevailing because there is a total political instability, there is an economic crisis, and Islamic fundamentalism increasing manifold. And therefore, the way situation are fanning out, to me it looks like that it is a ripe case for a civil war.
And Major General, so what accountability mechanisms exist under the current regime to investigate these allegations of custodial killings, and will this case be subject to an independent inquiry? Do you think, although these things are unfolding, they are still able to follow with the upcoming elections?
Unfortunately, Kirti, there is no law and order situation in Bangladesh. Mohammed Yunus government will say that we will carry out an investigation. All that investigation will be also fabricated. It will not be objective. It will be subjective and biased, and they will try to cover it up. Everyone knows that the Subhash Chandra, who was an old and who was a Awami League minister, has been killed by the you can say negligence or even by putting pressure by the jail authorities on the orders of Mohammed Yunus. So I don't think anything is going to come out. They will only blame that he was died due to his medical condition. But how did he reach to that condition? Why was he not given a medical aid? Why was he not been shifted to hospital when he was not well? So the point today is, I don't think any justice is prevailing in Bangladesh today, and that's why there is a fear, because including the international community is saying Bangladesh there is no law and order, and therefore these elections are not going to be very fair and free, and in any way they are not inclusive because Awami League, which is the base of 25 to 30%, are banned to participate in this election.
With that, I'd like to thank Major General A.K. Sivachi for joining us and sharing that insight. Now we move on to Afghanistan. At least 15 people have been killed and 3 have been seriously injured after a minibus overturned and crashed into a valley in northeastern Afghanistan. As per reports, the bus was traveling along a road in Badakhshan province towards the provincial capital Faizabad, but due to severe road damage, it veered off course and fell into a valley. An official has said that the victims of this incident include men, women, and children. Deadly traffic crashes are common in Afghanistan due to poor roads after decades of conflict, dangerous driving, and lack of regulation. A bus carrying migrants returning from Iran crashed in western Herat province in August last year, killing 78 people, including more than a dozen children. Another 25 people were killed in late August when a bus overturned on a highway near the capital, Kabul, due to the driver's negligence. Now we move on to Syria. Syria and Saudi Arabia have signed a series of deals, including a $1 billion project that will be launched to rebuild Syria's telecommunication network. Officials outlined other agreements, which focuses on developing infrastructure and enhancing digital connectivity. Other key deals include a Silk Link digital project and a major water agreement backed by Saudi Arabia's ACWA Water. Reports claim that these initiatives aim to advance Syria's recovery and economic growth. Let's listen in.
تأسيس شركة طيران ناس سوريا. نبارك توقيع اتفاقية تأسيس هذه الشركة بملكية مشتركة بين الجمهورية العربية السورية وشركة طيران ناس في شراكة تستهدف بناء ناقل جوي قادر على تلبية الطلب المتنامي.
تشمل هذه الاتفاقيات أولاً اتفاقية تطوير البنية التحتية للاتصالات والربط الرقمي عبر مشروع سلك لينك بما يسهم في تحديث شبكات الاتصال وتحسين جودة الإنترنت ودعم التحول الرقمي.
That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news and updates from around the world.